come in hot. All right, perfect. So you are now tuned into tonight's royalty movement team training. And tonight we got a good one. We got a good one tonight. Tonight is going to be talking about how to properly read credit reports to increase your success as it relates to restoring your credit, going through the My Credit system. And I got to give credit where it's due. This training was actually inspired by a king on the team. Let me mute everybody out and make sure nobody else mute.
It's
All right, everybody muted. You can't mute, so we can make sure everybody get a good listen in. All right, now I gotta give credit where it's due. This training was inspired by or prompted by the king on the team by the name of King Kel. On the team, been doing this thing, really staying consistent with his content. And he had a couple of questions pertaining to credit. And I answered the questions, and then he, had a couple of questions that I couldn't answer directly because I needed some more information. And the information that I needed was on his credit report. I was like, yeah, send me a couple of screenshots. He was like, man, it's a lot. So I'm gonna just record a short video. So he recorded a short video, just had me kind of scanning over what was going on in his report, things of that nature. He was like, man, I think it'd be good if we had something that kind of explained a little bit more of how to read it. Because we talk about how to read it and what to look for, but his scenario, I understood where he was coming from. He needed something a little more in depth. So that being said, I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. Because I gotta admit, I'm a little bit naive in terms of what you all may need. So it's important to, and not naive in the standpoint of neglect, but just sometimes I may not know what you need unless you ask, or we may not know what's a good idea for a training unless you throw it out there, unless you inquire, unless you ask. Because with me owning the credit restoration company, and for those of you who are interested in owning your own credit restoration company, you had the ability to do that inside the royalty movement at a deep discount. But with me having the credit system that I use, I'm a little bit spoiled because it pulls all of the data that I need. It lets me know what's negative, the errors associated with it. I'm able to push a couple of buttons and get some disputes going, letting them know how I want it to be disputed, what I want to contest, if I want it to be a verification, a method of verification letter, how I want to go about disputing it. The system does a great deal of the work. So with that system doing a great deal of the work, I forget about actually having to pull the credit report and look at it line by line, because I don't have to do that for the clients that I'm servicing. And that's what I'm positioning other people who want to start a credit business to do as well. Just use the system, it pulls all the data, and then you put, some letters together. You can go to the post office and mail them out yourself, or it's a system inside of there to where it has a system that can mail it out, and you don't even have to touch the post office as well. So if that's something you're interested in, shoot me a separate DM, or you can, get access to it for less than what the public can get access to it. But when he brought it up, and I was like, you know what, you're right. Because I was looking at his video that he sent me. I said, you know what, I think everybody can benefit from this. So I'm glad he brought it up. I said, I got you, I'm gonna make that happen. And last week we couldn't do it because we had the new member orientation. So the new member orientation is very important because we're always bringing in new members. We want to make sure that new members stay long-term members. And the best way to do that is to make sure they understand what they truly got access to. Because a person who quits my econ is just a person who doesn't understand my econ. Don't take it personal unless you didn't do your part in plugging them in. So make sure if you have brought anybody on the team, make sure you're plugging them in. We're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. We have a system where we're, making sure it's a culture, good energy, uplift, calling each other kings, queens. That's all by design. And we have people who are really dedicated and really serious about helping and empowering others. My wife and I, we, definitely been going hard for the team for forever. LaShondra came in the woodworks and definitely adds a ton of value. So she kills it when she does those new member orientations. So it's definitely something that we are happy to invite people to, because we know she's gonna give them what they came for, give them a good overview of what's going on. So last week we didn't want to interfere with that. So I said, okay, the following week, the next training is gonna be about reading the credit report. Now, drop some fives in the chat if you can see my screen, just so I can make sure the screen is being seen, with no problem. Drop some fives in the chat for me. And then this ties directly into some of the previous trainings we've been getting, specifically from Mr. Collier, how he was delivering it on the Super Saturday, if you're on the Super Saturday, or if you're on the Tuesday night training. And he was talking about some of the marketing that's going on in my econ as a whole, it's marketing that might not necessarily be valid. Marketing that might kind of ruffle some feathers, and we want to stay in alignment and kind of self-govern ourselves. But who remembers at least three of the things? I think he might have just listed three, but sometimes I throw in a fourth. But who remembers at least three of the things, three of the reasons why something is able to get deleted off of your credit report? Type it in the chat. What are three of the things that can lead to getting something removed off your credit report? Because I know sometimes when people are marketing, they were like, yeah, it's illegal to do this, or you can't, or you can delete any student loans. There's no guarantee in that. But however, it's three things that can increase the chances of getting student loans deleted, the collection deleted, the medical deleted, the charge-offs deleted. And there's some other things, some other strategies, don't get me wrong. But what are three of the things that increase the chances of getting something deleted? I'm gonna check the chat now, see who we got. Okay, I see a couple of bangers in there. Let me see. Somebody said inaccurate. Somebody said outdated. Somebody said unverified. Somebody been listening. Somebody been paying attention. And Danica, she went ahead and, overachiever. She went ahead and threw all three in there. I seen a couple of people do one at a time. Danica said, nah, I'm gonna go and throw all three in there. I know it. So somebody been listening and paying attention. And that's what it's all about. So something that's not able to be verified, number one, something that's outdated, number two, and something that is inaccurate, number three. Now that's very important because that gives you a lot of opportunity. I told you, one of the things I'm grateful for is opportunity. So anytime you got an opportunity to better your situation based on some extra knowledge that you got that everybody else may not have, or knowledge that you have that can just better your situation regardless of who has that information or not, it positions you to win. And that's what the royalty movement is all about, giving you additional opportunities to win. We do whatever we can. We learn stuff. We take a lot of the things that we do based on trial and error. So we make a lot of mistakes before we deliver it to you. We fail a lot, in terms of the efforts that we put out, but it makes us better so we can do better and then share better knowledge. So these things that we're about to go over tie directly into what may be inaccurate, outdated, and unverifiable, but primarily inaccuracies. See, the FCRA pretty much states that if it's some inaccurate information on your credit report, then it should be removed. Now, do they always remove it? No. Sometimes you gotta send multiple letters, make multiple attempts, not give up, not tap out, not quit just because it didn't, succeed the first time around. However, if you got your data points correct and you know what you're looking for, then you can always confidently dispute certain items that may be on your report. So we're gonna deal with a lot of things that pertain to inaccuracies and what to look for. Outdated, obviously, is just something that may be on there a little longer than it should. So sometimes that's dealing with statute of limitation. We're not gonna dive too deep on statute of limitation, but that's one of the things that can get things removed. And then obviously unverifiable things. And if you understand the flow of how we go about the dispute process, what do we consider to be letter number one? What is that letter known as? Type that in the chat. What's letter number one in terms of us going through the dispute process? This is the letter I like people to lead with, regardless of their scenario in most cases. Boom. Carissa got it right. So she got it right off the rip. Demetia got it right. Demetia was first, my bad. Okay. So I got it. The verification letter. Now, this is what you got to understand, because sometimes people get it mixed up. They like, I don't want to dispute anything because I recognize these charges. That's not what it's about. It's about finding things that are unverifiable, things that are inaccurate, things that may be outdated, and using that factual data to your advantage to get things deleted. And as a result of getting some things deleted, your score has the ability to go up, because less negatives and more positives equal a higher score. Simply put, you ain't got to overcomplicate it. Less negatives, more positives equals a higher score. So in my econ, what we pride ourselves in is doing a combination of those things. Yeah, you got the letters that you can get things deleted. And that's what a lot of people scream loud from the mountaintop. I can get this deleted. I got these letters. All of the letters they talk about. And it's just 35% of the score. That's a portion of the score just getting things deleted. But in my econ, we talk about all five factors. So you have the ability to have less negatives by getting things removed using our simple system, our letters, the pre-written letters, etc. But also you have a chance to have more positives because you understand things that you can personally be doing to build your credit, such as getting credit cards or becoming an authorized or getting added as an authorized user, lowering your credit utilization on your credit card, start new lines of credit if necessary, because that's not for everybody, just if necessary. So we give you the whole shebang, to say the least. So let's dive in because the verification letter is number one, and it's not denying anything. So that's really the point I was going to make. Sometimes people are like, I recognize these items. That's not what it's about. It's about what can they verify? Because if they can't verify it, if they can't prove it, what we used to say, if they can't prove it, they're supposed to remove it. So the verification letter is just saying, hey, notice these negative things on my credit report. Can you verify these items? It may be a combination of collections, charge-offs, accounts that got closed that had a negative status associated with it altogether, maybe repos, maybe bankruptcy, medical, student loans. It's just certain things that are negative. You just want them to verify. You just say, hey, I see this on my report, but can you please verify that this actually belongs to me? In many cases, they can't because, like we always talk about, it's a huge percentage of people who have errors on their credit report. Millions, like 40 million plus. And of the people who dispute those items, 79% of those people are able to get those things removed. So you're in position. So their first letter is the verification letter. They got to verify it. And if they don't, if they claim they do, you come with letter number two. Drop in the chat. What's letter number two? If letter number one is the verification letter. I want y'all to teach me tonight a little bit. What is letter number two? Somebody was on standby, boy. That Jamisha, she ain't playing. She had that copy and paste ready like she knew I was going to ask that question. She dropped it in there quick. Method of verification letter, also known as the MOV. So if you hear somebody say MOV, you know what it means. And they might try to talk in a way that they think they speaking over your head, but MOV, method of verification letter, same thing. So the method of verification letter, what that letter basically states is, how did you verify what you said you verified? Like, what method did you use? And if you take a look at the method of verification letter, it goes into great detail. Now, I wanted to preface it like that and talk about the verification letter and the method of verification letter because that is what takes care of the things that may be unverifiable. See? Not necessarily what you see on your report, it's what the letters put them in a position to do because the burden of proof is on them, meaning that they have the burden of proof. They are the ones who are supposed to prove that it belongs on your report. You didn't create the report, they did. They put it together. They comprise all of this information they got from third parties and all of this data and digging and being nosy that they did to accumulate all this information. Okay, you got it on my report. Banks and the lenders are looking at this information that's on my report. I need you to prove what you are reporting to the banks and the lenders. But that's what the method of verification is all about in the verification letter. They have to prove that it belongs on there. Now, let's talk about some of these inaccuracies or some of the things that may be outdated. Now, this is an actual credit report. Fingers crossed that I was able to black out all of the personal information. This is a real client, but I wanted to have a report that had a lot of data on there, a lot of stuff on there that can give me a good example that you can look at, get an understanding of, and it covers a lot of different scenarios. That way, if you're looking at the replay or you're watching it live, you have an understanding of what you can be looking for on your profile, regardless of what it is. Now, this is what you got to understand. It doesn't matter what's on your score, how bad your score is. Just know that you had the ability to solve that problem. So I always let people know that, listen, I don't care where your score is. I'm looking at it like a sniper. What do I see that's inaccurate, negative? That's an enemy to your score. Once we acknowledge who the enemy is, and we can snipe. So this is a credit report, and all of them look a little bit different depending on where you pull from. So it's not yours is not probably going to look exactly like this, but hopefully this paints the picture. So one of the first things you'll see is the score. Now, if you're using free credit report or the annual credit report, it's not going to show your score. It's just going to have a lot of different items that's on your report. I personally don't recommend just solely basing your dispute process on that for two reasons. Number one, it doesn't have your score. You want to at least have your scores, even though these are the Vantage scores. If you're not using FICO.com or myFICO.com, you still want to have a gauge of where you started so you'll know what your progress looks like. Second reason why I don't necessarily recommend using the annual credit report is because it gives the credit bureaus a little bit more time if they know that you're using the annual credit report. What do I mean? That means that if you use the annual credit report, it's free and available to everybody annually per year. And then during the pandemic, they allow people to get it monthly or something like that. If you're using it, instead of them having to go through the process, the verification process, the whole dispute process in 30 days, is typically what they have the time, that's their time frame. They have to go through the full process within a 30-day window. I usually do 35 just to make sure that the mail process, sending the mail and the receiving of the mail, there's no issues, making sure that basically they have no excuses. But 30 days is their window that they're supposed to go through the investigation. If they do not, then you can come with another letter, method of verification letter, or no response letter, depending on the situation. So I like that. But when you do the report directly from the free credit report, what happens is they get 45 days. So if you want to give them more time, use the annual credit report. But I'm sure we can probably all agree. Do you want to give the bureaus more time to prove a case against you or less time? You let me know. More or less. You want to give them more time or less time? I prefer to give them less time because I want to keep applying pressure as often as I possibly can. And that's why I recommend something that has a score associated with it, not just the report. So the first thing you'll see underneath the scores is the personal info. Now, a lot of people spend a lot of time on this and they talk about, oh, you got to update your personal info, get certain things deleted, or, make sure all of your name spellings is correct. And it's even listed like that in the back office. And that does have some truth. I'm not here to say that that does not work. It can increase the chances of you getting things deleted. It can. However, it's not mandatory to get started. Why? Because if you go through the verification process, many times you can get things deleted just with a verification letter. And if you do the method of verification letter, sending it the way that we instruct, which is notarized and certified, then you still have a heightened chance of getting things deleted just by the mere process that we teach people to dispute. Secondly, if you get all of your things to match, your name, your address, then when you're sending in your proof of identity, because when you're mailing off your first letter, you're usually going to send in a copy or a photocopy of your ID and proof of address. Most of the time, people ID does not match the proof of address, or the address that's on the ID doesn't match their current address. In many cases, sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. So if they don't match, now you call yourself trying to delete some of the old addresses, but it's still showing up on your ID. So they like, hold on, how you saying this ain't you at all? But you send in an ID, they got that address on it. So in order to avoid you having to go and have your ID change, all that, just get in motion and sending out the letters. The third reason is you might have some good reporting, positive reporting accounts on your credit report. Well, those good positive reporting accounts might have had that old address that you wanted to get removed. So what if that caused a hiccup in your score because they're like, okay, this good account had that old address, so maybe this good account was not theirs either since they got this address removed. Just a hypothetical scenario that can happen. So I like people to dive straight into sending the letters because it can overcomplicate things, if you do it the other way around. Yes, it can work, but you want to make sure you cover all bases if you do that. But if you talk to me, anybody who's talked to me directly, you've heard me say that over and over again. Don't worry about updating the personal info right now. We'll use that as a backdoor strategy if necessary, but let's just get in motion and sending out the letter. So you'll see the personal information on that first page. Then you'll get an account summary. An account summary is just a total, an overview of everything that's on reports. So you got the total accounts, you got the open accounts, you got the closed accounts. And let me zoom in a little bit just in case it's real small to y'all. Let's see if it'll let me. So you got all of these things that are showing up in the account summary. Oh, should have kept it simple. Let me see. Let me refresh this screen. Gave me the frowny face. It did a hiccup when I tried to zoom in for y'all. So next time I'm gonna keep it plain. I don't need no problems. I want this to be a smooth replay. So okay, cool. So account summary, as you can see, total accounts, open accounts, closed accounts, delinquent accounts, derogatory collections. So right off the bat, we know some collections on here. We know some closed accounts, we know some open accounts. Some of the open accounts might not necessarily be legit open, but again, that's another inaccuracy that you may be able to dispute. Balances, this is the overall balances. on your report. So right here, well, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Payments, public records. So this person doesn't have any public records. That's one of the only things that's not on here. Public records is if a person would have had some type of bankruptcy, Chapter 7, Chapter 11, something along those lines on here that would have showed up as a public record, just as an example. Foreclosure, that would have showed up as a public record. So it's a list of things that show up as a public record, but they don't have any on their account, but the same rules will apply. Inquiries, so it has 2 here, 3 here, 5 here, for a total of 10 inquiries, but 2 on one, 3 on one, 5 on the other, because it's all in the line. You got TransUnion, Equifax, Experience. So everything you're looking at, you're comparing these different accounts across the board. Now, that's going to be very important because that's going to help increase the chances of you discovering inaccuracies. So what do I mean? All right, as you see right here, we scroll down. This account is a Discover Bank account. Discover Bank account. So it has it's saying that it's current, so it's green all across the board, showing that the balance is 442 and the credit limit is 2,500. Y'all can see this. This is where I'm at. So the balance is 442, the credit limit is 2,500. Pop quiz. Is this the balance that we suggest or recommend inside of my econ? Or is this the type, does this represent what we consider to be a good balance in terms of what we teach inside of my econ, inside of the royalty movement? If yes, say yes. If no, add why. Why? If you think no, this is not a good balance, tell me why you think this is not a good balance based on what we teach. If you say yes, but tell us why. I mean, don't say, you just say yes by itself. You ain't got to say why. Somebody said no, utilization. Janetta said should be 250. Boy, y'all be listening. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. More than 10%. That's what I'm talking about. See, that was a test. I was just hoping y'all didn't let me down. These queens represent. So, like Janetta said, it should be less than 250. And really, if it's 0, that's cool, as long as you're using it, paying it out. But less than 10%, single digits. So everybody who I saw answered it pretty much nailed it. Should be less than 10%. So just for those who may not know, the ideal balance for a credit card is less than 10% because you get viewed different. You get more credibility. The lenders look at you as low risk. They're like, okay, this person is not dependent on this card. They're not using it to the max. They're only using 10%. You know what? Let me give them a credit limit increase. Angela Sims is known for getting credit limit increases because she's practicing this strategy of having a low balance. So creditors, the credit card, they'll send a letter say, hey, your credit limit just increased. So they give you more money if they know that you don't need them. That's how it works. And it helps your score up to 165 points. So this is very important. So if you're ever looking at your score, it might show up green like everything is good, but depending on what type of report you're looking at, you might want to, determine, okay, I need to lower that utilization, and that can help with your score as well. Now, that's beyond the dispute. This is just giving you an example of how to, view that particular thing. Now, this is, and I'm gonna have some more opportunities, but I'm gonna just let you know some of the things I look for. This right here is an account that right now is looking like it's all good. Let me make sure it's scrolling. So yeah, this one is a good positive account, no negatives, other than the utilization that we talked about. Now I'm gonna show you something that is gonna be something that you're gonna see throughout the whole process. If you dispute, say this was a negative account, you're gonna get another example I'm gonna show you another example of a negative account, but I'm gonna just show you how often this is likely to happen. If you look down under these black spots a little bit lower, you'll see where it says last activity. Last activity, I highlighted it. And you look on each bureau, last activity, last activity, last activity. You look at the date on this middle one, it says September the 1st. If you look at the date on this one, it says October the 1st, 2022. So these last activity dates do not match. That's an example of something reporting inaccurately or something not matching. Because if a person last activity date does not match, that's something that you can dispute and say, hey, There's an inaccuracy. I discovered that my last activity date is inaccurate, or what my letters will say is inaccurate last activity date, because it doesn't match. And you'll be surprised that you can get something deleted off of that alone just because they don't have their records intact. And it keeps you in alignment with the guidelines of how to market the credit business. You're discovering inaccuracies, and as a result, you're able to get a collection removed. You're able to get a charge off. You're able to get things removed based on you discovering unmatching information. So that's powerful. That's powerful. Just so you can understand what to look for. Now, sometimes it might be the balance. That's all. Right now, all of these balances match 442 all across the board. But you just want to see, okay, let me look and compare across all three things. What do I see that does not match? That is a representation of me. Now, you don't want to look at the creditor information and see that their addresses doesn't match. That don't count. But if you look and see, okay, the open date is off. This one, they match. But the last activity date, in most cases, is not going to match. It's very, very rare that I see a matching activity date. And when I do, I'm like, wow, that's rare. But most of the time it's inaccurate, and that's something I can use as a factual dispute. Basically, a factual dispute is it's a fact that these things don't match. If Experian got it one way and TransUnion got it another way, somebody got it off. Somebody lying. I need to dispute this based on the inaccuracy. One of them didn't report it at all. So somebody's off. So there's something to keep in mind when you're going through these disputes. And as you can see, all of these were green on this one. So that's not an account to dispute. It's just something to get the utilization down, and that will help this person's score. Now, let's go down a little bit further. All right, so we got zero balances on this one. This is another rare case. The last activity date on this one actually matches. So that's a rare case. So that's just proof in the pudding. But this is a fairly new account. You can see that he got opened up this year. So they ain't had the chance to report a inaccurate last activity date yet, but all of these payments are on time from January all the way to September. On time, everything is looking good. So that's a new account. So nothing to worry about. So you'll have some of those on your profile as well. Some things that don't need any work or any attention. Sometimes they give you this note that said needs attention. So these accounts are showing to be closed, and then it's showing that it had a balance of zero. Credit limit was 2,000, but it's a charge-off account. So collections and charge-off are in the same family for the most part. Basically, the creditor decided that, you know what, I'm not going to be able to collect this debt, so I'm gonna either do a charge-off or send it to collection. The difference between the two, a charge-off is them taking the tax deduction. So as a business, if they aren't able to collect on the debt, they can say, you know what, I'm gonna just take the tax deduction from it. And it may be good for their books. Because instead of them just taking a loss of $2,000, they can say, no, I can say the person owed $2,000. I can say, no, I'll just take the $2,000 tax deduction as a loss for my books because I could not collect on it. So that's what's known as a charge-off. So anytime you see a charge-off, that means they took the tax deduction, which means that they in some way, shape, form, fashion were compensated for that account. So when we say that it might not be in your best interest to pay on an account that has gone to charge-off status, this is what we mean. They've already been compensated. They've already been compensated. So why would you want to pay it if they've already been compensated? Same with a collection, and we'll see another one of those down below. Collection, they've sold the debt to someone. So if they sold the debt, they've been some way, shape, form compensated. So if they've already been compensated, they accepted whatever amount they were willing to accept for their debt, then why should I consider paying them? That's something to think about, just logically. Not telling you what to do, but that's what it's based on because they've already sold the debt. They no longer own that debt, and you paying them is not going to get it removed. You have to get something in writing, use the paper delete letter and things of that nature. But that's the last case scenario because you got too many other options of what you can do, too many other opportunities of what you can do to possibly get it removed, just using the letters and finding inaccuracies on your report and going through the dispute process as we teach. So this would definitely be something that you would dispute because it's a charge off. Now, the verification letter is typically what you would do. Even though you can discover some inaccuracies, the verification letter, when you go send that out first. You don't even have to worry about what's showing up inaccurate. I just want you to know how to look for it just in case the verification letter doesn't work or the method of verification letter don't work. Some people are like, what do I do? Okay, if they didn't respond, you can come with a no response letter. They did respond, you can come back and say, hey, I see some information that's not matching up. This is inaccurate because it's not lining up across all three bureaus. Usually it'd be something like the balance or the last activity date that does not line up. But again, this is a positive account outside. Well, it's showing to be positive, but it's a charge off account, so it could be worth deleting because it's still showing up as a charge off. All right, let's scroll down a little bit further. I think this may be a duplicate. Okay, so let's see. We got a high balance. Okay, this is a collection / charge off. So on here, you will still lead off with the verification letter. Pretty much any account that you see that's negatively impacting the score, you can lead off with the verification letter, hands down. But I just want you to know how to discover the inaccuracies. So this is a collection, and you see that because it says current payment status, collection charge off, all across the board. So it's collection, charge off, all across the board. Now, I want somebody to tell me in the chat, does the last activity date on this particular account match or not? Just say yes or no. Do they match all across the board? Yes or no? Exactly. So that's inaccurate. If I don't remember who is who, but if TransUnion got March 13th, Equifax got July 1st, and Experian got March 1st, and it ain't in the same year on one of them, somebody off. That's an inaccurate piece of data, and that little detail alone can get something removed. That's one of my favorite go-tos, either that or inaccurate balance outside of just the verification letter and the method of verification. Just keep it in mind. And this is a collection account. So if in doubt or you don't know what to do because you sent out both letters, don't get caught up or stuck or wonder, dang, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do next. You can always dispute factually, just finding what's inaccurate in terms of the data. Now, since this has gone to collection, you dispute it and aim to get it removed just because it's a collection on your account now. It's gone to collection. It did have some good positive payment history associated with it at some point, but you'll see the collection that's associated with it. You definitely want to get or aim to get it removed. So a lot of these going to kind of duplicate or look very similar. It's going to be repetitive. And that's the point. I want it to be redundant just so you'll know, okay, these are the things I'm looking for. So you're not scared when you're looking at the report. You have an idea of what's going on. So right here, what's the account status of this one? What's the account status of this one? Type that in the comments real quick, real easy. And the bonus question is, what does it mean? What does that account status mean? See who's been listening tonight. What does that account status mean? So I see, boom, Lily's answered it all in one walk. Charge off, tax deduction. They got the tax deduction, so they was compensated. They wrote it off on their taxes. They said, okay, I'm not going to be able to collect this balance, whatever it was. It might have been 300 just based on the credit limit. So they just took it as a tax deduction. So either way, the business is not going to lose. They're not going to position themselves to take a L. And that's how you have to think too as a business owner. Anytime you're spending money with what you're doing, figure out a way to make it tax deductible. We're going to do some more tax education and trying to increase the chance that you understand the power of tax deductions. But you have to get strategic on keeping your money because that's how businesses operate. They're like, okay, if I can't collect, it's a loss. Deduction. That's just a powerful tool that you can add to your toolbox. So now let's look. So we know that this is a charge off. Down here it says the current payment status, collection charge off status as well. Again, we look at the last activity date. I told you it's rare that they match. We seen one that matched and it was a new account, been open for 8 months, give or take. Last activity date, April 8th, 2020. Last activity date, July 1st, 2022. Last activity date, April 1st, 2020. Same year, different date, don't matter. Inaccurate. July 1st, nowhere in the ballpark. Inaccurate. There ain't no way that the last activity day was all 3 of these different days for the same account. So somebody information and they reporting is off. You gotta hold them accountable for that. And you can use that and leverage that your advantage. And I'm gonna try to blow through the rest because it is pretty redundant, but I just want you to get the point. Now, I do want you to pay attention to this, especially on your credit report. When you're going through disputing things, you don't want to always go about trying to delete certain items. What I mean is also pay attention to the open date on your account. So what I mean by that is you don't want to delete the oldest reporting account unless you got a good positive account that was opened around that same time. So for example, say your oldest account was opened up in 2010, so 12 years ago. But it's a negative account. Let's say it was a collection. But you got another positive account that was open in 2000, we'll say 2011. So it was 11 years ago, not as old as that oldest account, but it's a positive account. It may be worth deleting that collection because that 11 years will stand strong. But say, for example, your most positive account was 2018, so just 4 years ago. I wouldn't be so quick to delete that old account because even though it's a collection, it's still an old account that gives you some quality of age that lets them know that you've been using your credit for a certain amount of time. Because if you deleted that and now your credit age just went from 12 years old to a 4-year-old toddler, you can likely drop your score because you lost some credit age. So just because you can do something don't mean you should do something. Just because you can delete something don't mean that you should delete something. So just kind of keep that in mind as it relates to you going through the dispute process. Now, this one, of course, is all collections. And another thing to point out real quick is not every account will report to all 3 bureaus. So you see this one right here, it's only reporting the 2. That's normal. Some of them, that's just how they operate. There's different things that they do on their back end and makes them make the decision of, okay, I'm only going to report to TransUnion. Okay, I'm going to report to 2. I'm going to report to all 3. If your payments and everything are intact, it's beneficial to you when they report to all 3. If it is some negativity on your account, it's to your benefit if it only reports to 1. But that's just the nature of it. Happens. All right. Go down here. This is a account. So this is another collection. Current payment status, collection, charge off, last activity dates do not match. Another inaccurate. So basically, when we talk about things that are unverifiable, things that are inaccurate or outdated, we've already told you how to handle the unverifiable things with letter number 1. Things that are inaccurate, you're seeing how to go about it if it comes to that. If your letter number 1 and number 2 don't work, you can always fall on, okay, disputing it based on the inaccuracy. Sometimes you can lead with that first. I've done that, but I still just always recommend just going through the verification process because you can easily get them caught up with those first 2 letters back to back. So just, keep that in mind. All right, I think we've been down to the nitty gritty in terms of you having an understanding of what to look for on a report. And I know somebody's going to have some questions. So anytime you see red, it's basically saying it's either late payment, collections. You may see some red and green. And sometimes if it's an account like this that has a lot of green, a little red, if it's still an open account, that's the opportunity to do a Goodwill letter. This is a charge-off collection account, so it's a little bit different. They've already charged it off. They've already got paid for it. And as you see on this one, this is another thing to look for. So I'm glad I paused right here. If you look at the overview says currently you're using 120% of your account's limit. So they closed this account, did it as a charge-off, took the tax deduction, not for just the credit limit of 2,200. It shows that the balance is over the 2,200. So the interest probably ran it up above the 2,200. That's how it operates. So now they got 120% utilization. They closed the account, took it as a tax deduction. That's it. So this would be something that would be still worth removing, but you want to pay attention to all of those details because just because it shows a little green doesn't mean it's good. And then especially if you see charge off collection, then you know the drill. Let's see. Now, if this was an open account, you see a lot of green and some red representing the late payments, then that would be a good reason to use the Goodwill letter, as I stated earlier. Hopefully this is clear. I'm trying to see if it's anything that we kind of haven't gone over. This one is loaded with collections and charge-offs, and this is a normal thing. At the bottom of the credit report, as you can see, these are all of just the details, the meat of the account. You got the account number all the way down to, the status, past due, and then it gives you the information about that creditor. So, for example, say you wanted to do a Goodwill letter. You're not sending that to the bureaus. You're sending it directly to the creditor. So say you got to open an account. This example is Capital One or Kohl's. I guess it was a Capital One or a Kohl's credit card that was issued by Capital One. You will be sending that letter to the addresses that you see. I know you see two different addresses. You got a Kohl's PO box here and a Ridgewood. I would send one letter to both of those addresses to increase the chances of the right person who's the decision maker seeing that letter and saying, you know what, based on what this letter says, we will consider or go ahead and update this account to positive. Now you just took an account that wasn't 100% negative, and you took an account that might be hurting your score and turned it into a positive because they updated those negative payments to positive just because you sent out that Goodwill letter. And you send it to two different people who might be decision makers. So a lot of times, if you're wondering, where do you send the letters to? The creditors, the addresses are right here underneath where they report, underneath the account. And usually at the very, very bottom of the report, you'll see all of the addresses associated with your account. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. I just want to see if anybody has questions, because all of it is pretty much the same scenario. You're going to see the balances, and based on the balance, you'll know how you should address it. You're going to see collections, charge-offs. You're going to see, repos, depending on your account. Obviously, I deal with a lot of different people, but yours may not look like this, but I just wanted something that had a ton of examples to just let you know that it's normal for the last activity date to not match. It's rare for it to match. And like this one, it matches, but it's a new account. I do want to open up for questions. Right now, I'm just scanning to make sure it's not anything in particular I wanted to go over. Right here, you can see the hard inquiries. So they list out the hard inquiries, and it may be an example of something that's outdated. Let's see. So an outdated example of a hard inquiry, I use this bottom example right here. So right here on this final, well, I think this might be the last hard inquiry. They got a couple of more, but I use this one right here. So this hard inquiry was with Zales. So it's a Zales account, hard inquiry, December 31st, 2020. Inquiries typically fall off after 2 years. Typically, sometimes they don't. However, if you're disputing hard inquiries, you can actually send a letter to get removed about a month out. So right now is not a bad time to dispute a hard inquiry and get it removed. So basically, it'll just be including in the letter that this inquiry is outdated, or it should no longer be reported. It's 2 years late. My details pretty much say this is an outdated inquiry, or this inquiry is more than 2 years old. Please remove, something along those lines. So that's an example of something that's outdated. Sometimes it might be a collection, and depending on your state, there's a certain jurisdiction. Not jurisdiction. What's the word I'm looking for? Somebody help me out. Statute of limitation. That's it. Jurisdiction. I don't know where that came from. Certain statute of limitation. And the statute of limitation will let you know how long a certain account should stay on your profile. You can Google those. I got a sheet that I refer to kind of know how each state is set up. Some are longer than others, but if something is on your report in your state, based on the category it falls under, whether it's a collection or a charge off, and it's beyond that date, then it's something that's outdated. You can dispute it and say, hey, this is outdated, this is beyond the statute of limitation, and that's another reason to get it removed. So you're equipped with everything you need to dispute and get things, or increase the chances of getting things deleted if it's unverifiable, it's outdated, and if it's inaccurate. And most of the time, you're going to be able to find some level of inaccuracy, especially if you just focus on that last activity date. That's a powerful spot to look at, but look at the balances as well. A lot of times the balances can be, accurate, or match across the board, but a lot of times last activity date will not. So use that to your advantage. All right, I want to open up for questions. I don't see anything additional that I don't feel I already covered. Just wanted to get that overview and make this a good recording for people to use. And like I said, at the bottom, this is where you will see, depending on the type of report or where you pull the report from, you'll see the public records and you'll see the creditors that are all on your account. So it gives you the address that you can use to your advantage if need be. Sometimes you don't need them. All you need is the main 3 bureaus. All right, I'm gonna set it so anybody can unmute themselves. And Queen, if you see any questions inside of the chat, let me know. All right, it's all set. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Questions, comments, feedback, etc.
So my question is, I was gonna ask, can you put that in the chat, in the credit chat?
Put what in the chat? This PDF?
For the statute of limitations, per state.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, thank you.
I got you. It might be a couple of pictures, but I got you.
When you have an account that goes to collection, can they report to the bureau?
Can
It's in the chat, it's the last 2 questions in the chat. If you can't, then I can just.
You.
Over here,
All right, when you have an account that goes to collections, can they report to the bureau? Yes, yes. So even on this profile, the one that I just looked at, some of the collections, some of the accounts that show collection or charge on, if you scroll down a little bit further, it's an actual collection company that reports to the bureau as well. So yeah, they can report to the bureau as well. And sometimes they'll report it in a way that makes it seem like y'all have a relationship. Like what I mean is they may report it as an open account. It's a collection agency. But yes, they definitely can report it, and sometimes they report it in a way that may fool you. You just got to know, okay, nah, this is the people that bought it from Capital One or bought it from Bank of America. So yes, they can report to the bureaus, and you definitely want to dispute those. Any collection agency, dispute those with a quick pass. All right, so on my report, I have highlighted things that have errors, etc. Can I send that off with my letters? You can, it's not mandatory, because I'm about not giving them more information than they need. Because sometimes, you know, it may be some extra stuff on there that they look for, that they find, and because you included that in the letters, then, you know, they use it against you. So be strategic with it. You know, make sure you're only showing what you want them to see. If you include it, it's not a bad idea, because sometimes it can work, but just make sure you cut off anything that does not apply to them directly, so they don't use anything against you. If you're just showing, hey, this bureau shows this bureau shows this, yours shows this, then you may be able to use that to your advantage. A lot of times the letters themselves work without it, but it's not a bad strategy to prove, hey, this ain't matching. So that's a great question. And just make sure you cover your bases. Yeah, okay. What's the most extreme you've seen someone's credit score change? In what direction, PC? You said, what's the most extreme you've seen someone's credit score change? Mean increase, like as it relates to helping somebody restore their credit, or decrease based on something negative they've done? I guess I answer it both ways. I'll go up. Okay. Most extreme I've seen, just my client, just a client of mine alone, the most extreme is probably 301 points all in 1 month. And it was a recommendation I gave about utilization. Getting their utilization down was the recommendation I gave, in addition to sending out some letters. And 300 across the board, when I tally it up like that, that means it might be 100 per bureau. So 100 points on Experian, 100 points on Equifax, 100 points on TransUnion, but it was a total of 301 points. So it wasn't a perfect spread. It might have been 91 here, 104 here, and 100 points, 90 some points somewhere else. So 301 points is the most extreme with anything else in between. Good question. But it all boils down to you knowing your factors too. So if you know all 5 of the factors, you can look at a person's score and say, okay, they're missing out on credit utilization points because their credit limit is high, or the balance is high, or they don't have a credit card at all. Or, they are missing out on some of the points with payment history because all of these collections, let's focus on getting things removed in addition to giving them some guidance on increasing the positivities that's on their report. Good question. If the dates or amounts due are different, all 3 bureaus, and you dispute it, would that delete the whole account or just the different amounts / date? All right, King Kale, good question. So basically, when you're disputing certain things, you usually give them some instructions on what you want them to do. So if you want them, so for example, if it's an account that I'm disputing, say I might dispute a late payment. I might say verify late payment. I add some extra details in my system that says verify late payment. This is when I say verify late payment, I'm not trying to dispute the whole account. I'm not telling them to verify the account belong to me. I'm telling them to verify the late payment. And usually my instructions that go with that is saying, hey, please update this account, the positive status, and remove the late payment. Because I want them to verify that the late payment actually belongs to their client. And if they can't, sometimes what they've done is just update it to positive because they can verify the late payment itself. So just be specific with what you're telling them to do, because sometimes if you just are, doing a verification letter, the verification letter can get an account deleted, and you might not necessarily want it to get it deleted if the account was overall positive. Even if it had a couple of hiccups here and there, the account itself was overall positive. So just be specific on that. Now, if you do notice some different amounts and dates, and you're just showing, hey, these amounts are inaccurate because they're not matching, or the dates are off and not matching, then you can use that to your advantage to get that account deleted. You just say, hey, inaccurate amounts, inaccurate balance, inaccurate credit limit, inaccurate this. You're basically aiming to get it removed. Hopefully that answers your question, Ken Kell. Let me know if it didn't. Feel free to unmute. No question is a bad question, unless you don't ask. Gotcha. Okay.
Hi, this is Fallon. I started with Miss Cheryl this afternoon, and I do have a question.
And welcome to the team.
Thank you. So, I was telling her earlier I had an issue back in like 2010, I think it was. This apartment complex had stated that I had left with a bill of like $400, and of course, like I said, 2010, they say 7 years it'll come off. Right at 2017, right before they got ready to completely close it, I guess, I don't know if they sold it to somebody else or how that works, but they now it's back on my credit report. And then when I tried to dispute it, they said that it was an accurate account.
Okay, then what you do?
I mean, every time I tried to do it again, and it's pending now.
What did you do when you said you tried to do it again? What did you do differently?
Well, I disputed it through was it Equifax or TransUnion? I think it was TransUnion, because that's the only one that is showing up on. See, so it's not showing up on all 3 credit bureaus. It's just showing up on one.
So let's unpack it. So how did you dispute it?
Well, I went through the regular dispute process.
You mailed in letters, or you disputed online?
I did it online.
Okay, so I know you knew, but we don't recommend disputing online because they'll use that against you. So now you know. They'll do that. It waives a couple of your rights when you dispute online. Because this is what you got to understand. The credit laws are a little, I say outdated, but they were created years ago before online was what it is right now. So since the laws were created back then, you want to play the game how the laws are going to best benefit you, which means mailing the letters in is going to be your best benefit. Now, it's not a total loss just because you disputed online. I just want to empower you so that you'll know going forward. Now, if you haven't already disputed, because I know you said it came back verified, if you haven't already disputed via letters, use the system. The system will show you how to go about sending those pre-written letters, and we recommend sending the letters certified, and notarized, getting it notarized. So
Okay,
those
that way
things,
I know that they got it for sure.
know that they got it for sure, and getting it notarized changes the game of the letter itself, because now instead of it just being a letter, you got a notary public to actually, and it's free at our libraries, and depending on where you're at, you can get a notary public to, notarize it free of
Okay.
charge. But when you get it notarized, it changes it from just being a letter to pretty much an affidavit. So
Right. Okay.
it holds more weight. So now, if they say that it was verified, okay, you did what you were supposed to do on that end, and then the second letter, which you'll see inside of the training, is going to be a method of verification. So that way you can have confidence in, okay, yeah, they can say that it was verified, they can say that it was updated, whatever they say. Now, when you send that second letter, that method of verification letter, you're asking them, okay, how did you go about verifying? Show me the method that you use, and the letter includes a ton of checkpoints that they're supposed to be able to address. And if they don't, then that increases
I
the
gotta
chance
take it off.
of getting removed. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's what I would do with that, because those collection companies, they're notorious. They'll see the time frame, they'll sell it to, a collection agency, it pop back up as if it's brand new. And sometimes they'll sell it to somebody else, even if you got it or you
Right.
paid for it,
Paid for it and all that.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So they do some notorious things. So since that's how they play, we got to know how to play the game as well.
Right. Okay. And then my second question is, so like I said, me and my friend and I, we've been trying to get our credit straight and whatnot. Well, she had a what is called our chart. Okay, so she got a car. Of course, you know that they supposed to report them to all 3 credit bureaus. Well, she's been paying her car note, paying it on time, doing whatever. But at one time, right when the pandemic hit, they repoed her car. And so they stopped reporting when she went and picked it up. They stopped reporting it to the credit bureau. So now it's not showing on her credit that she has that car, but they did it as a charge off. But she's still paying on that car. Now, how does that work?
Gotcha. So they might have already written that car off, and they might just be getting some free money. Because if they repoed it, they probably took it like a loss on the books. They got the car back.
No, so they took the car, and then she paid the reinstatement, the reinstatement fee to get it back. But now it's not showing, they're not reporting it to the credit bureau that she has it back.
Yeah, so they probably just, look in the system. They did the charge off because they wasn't sure they was gonna be able to collect. They got the car as the collateral, took the money to go ahead and let her get the car back and just accepting the payments. That may be what's going on, or she can have that conversation with them, seeing if they can go about reporting it to the bureaus again. But
because that's what she asked, but they're still not doing it.
Yeah, see, that's probably what happened. They're just getting free money at this point. So in that case,
9 times out of 10, they done already got their car paid off.
Right, and now they like, okay, we can treat you like a buy here, pay here. Keep the car, and we just keep accepting
and
the payments.
get your money. Right.
Money.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a tough scenario. Is she keeping track with how soon does she at least know a balance of when it can be paid off in full?
So I want to say, because me and her talked about this 2 days ago. Back in February, today was like she was at $8,000. So that's the payoff. So what's this? This November, October of this year, she was trying to trade it in, and when she called, they told her she had a payoff of $8,000. So it don't sound, but she's been paying it since she got that last payoff price. But now the payoff price never changed.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, if they willing to collect money and milk the system, then she definitely want to figure out a way to get out of this scenario. And she might want to use a fear tactic like, hey, I see that you already wrote this car off as a charge off as a tax deduction. Something is inaccurate about how you're doing this.
Right.
Just let them know that she knows, and see if they're willing to work something out from there.
Change it up.
That can either be, paying it off at a smaller amount to where, she at least fulfills whatever agreement she said with them directly, but just, have that conversation to see what they're just kind of shake them up a little bit. Let them know, hey, I see that you wrote this off as a tax deduction, but you still paying or accepting payments from me. Plus, if it's no track record or no paperwork showing how low her balance is going over time, she's setting herself up, because they'll have her paying forever.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Y'all sure never know that. 'Cause,
and get her plugged into the system. Let her know, we got a family over here that welcomes her with open arms, so she can get access to that same system. That way, you're not trying to give her
Give her
just a
my
verbal
information. Got
explanation.
you.
Let her get access
Mhm.
to the tools, so that way
Okay.
she'll know what to do.
Okay.
Good question, Queen. Appreciate your transparency. I love it. I love it. Any other questions or comments out there? You don't see any more in the chat, do you? Hold on, let me see. Oh, no, I don't see. No, I got it. I see it. Questions, comments going once. It's now past the top of the hour. Questions and comments going twice. Perfect. Okay. So I'm gonna stop this record just so when they play it back, it's just about an hour. That way, anybody who watches this, they're able to get what they need, get those questions at the end, because that's gonna help somebody as well. Let me stop this record. Oh, not before I do the mission statement. So for those of you, we're gonna have a brief talk, really not a builder training, just some talk about some things that are on the forefront for those of you who are interested in generating income, making money, or already doing what we've been talking about on our builder training, specifically with having a meeting or doing the call, the blitz, and understanding that cash flow call guide. So we'll do some small talk about that, but we're gonna wrap up. We're not gonna stay on too much long. So for those of you who have tuned in, I salute you. Tapping in, hopefully you got some value from this call. You take it, you apply it, and you get some results from it. See, we live in a world where we're conditioned for failure. And oftentimes we have been programmed or fooled into mediocrity. So people find themselves living like peasants instead of the royalty that they were meant to be. But you see here in the royalty movement, we see the king in you. I see that queen in you from start to finish. It's just time to take the seat on the throne, because this is where we uplift your character, your confidence, and your cash flow. As royalty, you should establish a solid financial foundation that'll soon lead to your abundance and thriving empire. Take your seat on the throne. You are royalty. Hello.